Hello and welcome. This is Not Just Making the Tea, the podcast which discusses the realities of our career and life choices whilst made at school and college. We celebrate the parts that haven't gone to plan as much as those which have. With every chat, we plan to explore what life skills there are to be learned and how they can influence and help us to succeed. I'm your host, Rachel Price, founder of Amali.com, the career website for young adults. So firstly, I'd like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to this podcast. I hope that you enjoy the experience and that you will continue to join me and my future guests on our journey. I really appreciate anyone who takes the time to listen, so please subscribe, like, tell your friends, and send me any comments and feedback. I hope that you find these chats thought-provoking, entertaining, and hopefully they will give you some positive vibe for your day. So on that note, let's get started with today's topic. Resilience, and how to develop our levels of resilience in an ever-changing time. So I'd like to start by asking you some questions. I get that you're listening to this on a podcast, but I would like you to at least consider these questions. Have you ever lost someone you truly loved? Have you ever had your heart broken? Ever struggled through a horrible divorce or breakup? Directly or indirectly as the individuals with direct connection, as in the child or the sibling? Think or say yes out loud if you have. Have you ever lived through a natural disaster? This for me includes our current circumstances of living during a pandemic. Have you ever been made redundant or bullied? Think or say yes out loud. Finally, have you or anyone you've loved had to cope with mental illness, dementia, some form of physical impairment, or coped with a suicide? Please think yes or say yes out loud. Hands on heart, we can truthfully say adversity doesn't discriminate. It can and will at some point affect us all. If you're alive, you're going to have to, or you will have already had to, deal with some tough times. Just out of interest, how many times did you say yes? Over a decade ago, I started thinking about and studying resilience and how each of us is different, from our ability to cope with adversity and, as the saying goes, our ability to bounce back. This was when life started to take me on a bit of a rollercoaster ride. I was working in schools, specifically a school in the third poorest ward outside of London, observing students who were really just children and how they were able to cope with the rising issues, their ability to bounce back or flounder and either hide or lash out. At the time I was pastoral lead for around 220 students and wondering how I could support these individuals but also develop their understanding of resilience. I just didn't know that I was going to have to develop my own levels of resilience at the same time. For me, life had been a bit up and down until then. I'd had a complicated time of being in and out of hospitals for 13 or so operations from my early years until the age of around 12. My parents had divorced and it wasn't pretty. My mum remarried and that was not great for me to start with. I'm sure I was just being a stroppy teenager. And then I was diagnosed with epilepsy before I'd finished my GCSEs. All of my previous plans for what I was going to do went out of the window overnight, and I had to rethink fast. Things then settled down for a while. I got the opportunity to go to college, experience part-time work, and then go on to university, which was amazing. I learnt so much about me, and not just through my studies. My life plan had changed, and I was now a chef, working in 5-star and Michelin star rated restaurants. I was learning so much and regularly cooking for some very, very important people. I married at the age of 23, and as much as I tried, it just didn't work out. My own divorce was not a good experience, but it was the right thing to do. And then life changed again. I started working with the education system as a lecturer, and then within the secondary school system. So now it's 2009, and I've already spent 8 years as a chef lecturer and then teacher of design and technology in health and social care. Now working as a pastoral lead, also known as a head of house, wondering how I was going to be able to support and develop the resilience of my students, whilst working in an area which meant that they'd already had the odds stacked against them. We learnt together, we laughed, we cried. Truthfully though, I just really didn't know enough at the time. And then I had my own situations to deal with. I was working full-time, working in a school dealing with my day-to-day teaching responsibilities and all the ups and downs of my students' lives inside and outside of the school day. I was training for triathlons, I was foster parent to a Chinese boy who'd been living with me for just under a year, and also trying to have my own social life. The phrase burning the candle at both ends was justified, but I was happy, healthy, and enjoying it for the most part. Then it all changed. I found a lump in my neck. Truthfully, I just ignored it for about 4 weeks. I thought I'd pulled a muscle. But then I started to notice that I was quickly getting tired more often than not. I'd come home from work, sleep for an hour, and then go to the gym to train. Come home, cook dinner, do my work prep, and then sleep again. I was bruising easily, and oh, did I have some amazing bruises during those days, and I had no idea how or when I caused them. And then there was another lump, and not just a small lump. It was the size of my fist and on my collarbone. It was time to go and see my doctor. He arranged a test for glandular fever, and the results came back negative. Let's just say that the next week was a whirlwind, with me going straight to a room on ICU ward of my local hospital, and because no one knew what was affecting me, I was kept away from other patients. The term toxic was used, and I just didn't know what to do or what was happening. After 2 days of tests, cameras up my nose, x-rays, weird scans that made me feel like I was peeing myself, very weird and I promise I didn't, and lots of conversations about my life and travels, and still nothing. I was then moved to a new ward, Ward 17, the cancer ward. It took me 3 days to realise that this was the case. I was just being my usual self, getting up and walking around, fussing because I couldn't be at home or work or training, and the lovely nurses getting fed up with me for all of the above. But I was not physically well, and when I was not up and about, I was sleeping. Well over 12 hours a day. I like my sleep, but this was excessive. Finally, they operated, and how we got to there was another story for another time, but you couldn't have written it. The surgeon took 2 lymph nodes from my collarbone area, and a biopsy was done. It took a further 3 months for results to be confirmed. My case was odd. It turned out that I had a condition which was super rare. It only affects around 25 people per year, and they are mainly from Asian countries. There is not much information, research, and no specific treatment or cure. Wow, I hadn't seen that one coming. My blood was discussed at the highest level in the UK, and I was even written about in a medical paper. So what did I do? Well, I slowly fought back. The day after my surgery and having been given the clear to leave the hospital, I went back to school for a few hours, and there is even a school photo taken that day, the 2009 photo of the whole school. There I am, sitting centre row, front and middle, as part of the pastoral team, in jeans, red jacket and a green scarf hiding my stitches and covering. It's a comical situation, really. Slowly I went back to work. I wasn't better or cured, but I was stronger and clearer in my mind as to what I could and couldn't do. My resilience, or rather my grittiness, was developing and becoming stronger. I wasn't going to let this set my path for life. Since then, I've ocean raced over 15,000 miles around the world, completed several sprint triathlons and 3 Olympic distance triathlons, moved to Dubai, found love, lost love, found it again, met and worked with some amazing individuals, lost my job at least twice, started building my own company from scratch based on my own values, beliefs and experiences, and I've also travelled lots. Now I will confess at this point, I don't have all the answers. I don't even have most of them. But what I can tell you 10 years on is what I know from my own personal experiences and research. That it is possible to rise up from adversity, that there are strategies that work. It is entirely possible to train yourself to think and act in certain ways, to develop a mindset which will help you navigate through tough times. There is a monumental body of research on how to do this stuff. Today, I'm just going to share with you 3 strategies. These are my go-to strategies that I've relied upon and helped me through my low days. These 3 strategies that underpin my everyday, and they are readily available to all of us. Anyone can learn them. You can learn them right now.